Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about... Hold on, they're blue. Pixels! Pixels is a movie about Pac-Man and other video games. Oh, I lose. So Pixels is the new Adam Sandler movie that is based on... Oh, hi Brandon.
Hi, Captain.
How you doing, man? It's been a while since you've been here.
It has been a while.
Sorry, I was sort of immersed in Pac-Man. Forgive me. I was doing okay there for a minute, and then suddenly the review started.
And you died.
And and then I died.
That happened to me a lot in Pac-Man.
Yeah.
I died.
You died a lot.
By like level 2, I died like 15 times already.
Hey, anyway, so today we're going to talk a little bit about Pixels, the new Adam Sandler movie that is based on a short that came out a few years back on YouTube. Did you ever see the short?
I did.
The short. In fact, I want to say you sent it to me at one point.
I did.
I never thought they'd make a movie. You know, honestly, the movie was probably in production at the time that you sent me that, and we didn't even know it.
I've been following this movie. Well, I've been following this movie since, like, I believe the original short was posted in 2010.
Yeah.
And I knew about, I know this for a fact. Whenever it was posted, I knew about it shortly after the original post date.
Oh, okay.
All about this short. I never in a million years thought they'd make a movie out of it, or that Adam Sandler would be helming this thing.
Yeah. So if you don't know about the short and you never saw that, it was this incredibly creative and really real-looking thing where it took a bunch of old classic arcade games and sent them to Earth to destroy us.
It brought them into the real world.
Yeah, and was pixelizing everything and like shooting real buildings and things that, if memory serves, recognizable buildings.
Oh yeah.
And like pixelating them down. It looked really real, and it was super neat. It was ultra 3-dimensional. It looked almost like Pixar good.
It did. The guy who did that, his name is Patrick Jean.
Oh wow!
And,
okay. Wow, you know stuff.
I do know stuff this time. There's a rare occasion.
No, you often know stuff.
A one-up. I got a one-up.
Yeah. Anyway, go.
I should have worn my video game shirt for this. I have several video game shirts. Wow.
You realize if you keep setting me up like that, I'm just going to keep doing video game noises.
I know. Anyway, so yeah, Patrick Jean did this thing, and in the original, this guy just sits down an old TV, and it looks like it's broken, and it just comes on. It's got no power source, and everything pops out of it, and you're like, what's going on?
Right.
And then they take over, and yeah, so.
I mean, people can watch it. It's like 3 minutes long.
Go look that up. It's great.
But anyway, so then Adam Sandler gets his hands on it and decides to make a whole movie out of it. He's like, this is cool. So he buys the rights to it and makes a movie. And the movie is essentially the same thing with the with the kind of gimmick of the video games are actually aliens from another planet, and they are responding to our signal from 1982, which included a bunch of video games, and they thought that we were challenging them to a video game war.
Win or take all, as a matter of fact.
So then they send. So then they make up a bunch of pixelated games based on ours, and they send them here, and they expect us to play by the same rules that it was always played by before. And we have kind of a group of 4 guys that knew each other in the 80s and were big in the arcade scene. Some of the gags about quarters I thought were kind of funny, and they were big into the tournaments. And they grow up and are the only people who can save us in this kind of weirdly almost Ghostbusters sort of way, which frankly I don't think works at all. I don't know why you wouldn't just call up as many people that won tournaments back then as possible, but in order to
that was a good point.
In order to have an ensemble cast, we've got to try to contrive a reason, and they didn't. I don't think they even really tried. They just said, these are the people that can save us, and then they get their own kind of Ghostbusters-esque costumes.
It was specific to 1982, which they could have.
Well, were you not getting a little bit of that Ghostbusters vibe? Like they were ripping off Ghostbusters a little bit, even like they had the light gun things instead of the proton packs, and it might have worked better if they'd actually invented them, but anyway, so that's kind of the setup for Pixels. Brandon, how'd you feel about this movie?
Well, this movie, This movie made me feel like I was 7 again, and in the toy store with 5 toys promised to me. However, when we got to the checkout counter, I was told you got to put all 5 toys back.
Oh wow, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So, a little disappointing, eh?
A little disappointing, and it's all about the third act for me on this movie. This movie brought me into it. I started to like the characters, and then it would kind of step back a little bit, and I'd be like, okay, where are they why are they doing that? Where are they coming from there? And I'd be like, okay, maybe I can work with that, and then get me back up again, and be like, take 2 steps back and look at this again, see if you can work with this. And I get there, and then the ending just kind of just was like, why? Seriously? Come on, guys.
You might want to elaborate slightly.
So basically,
I'm not to give anything away, but just what about the humor wasn't getting you?
Okay, probably right near the very end, there's one of the characters has wanted something his whole life, and he finally gets it. But I don't understand why this particular thing looks real when everything else still looks pixelated. Number 1. Yeah. Number 2, then it's taken away from him. Then in a completely weird way, they bring it back to him. And
but you're just saying physical leaps in logic and stuff.
Yeah, there were. These particular leaps in logic were... They were asking us to go further than they had with any part of the rest of the movie, basically. And it just jumped a little bit too far for me, and that made the ending fall apart for me. And so I was torn. While most of the movie was... I very much enjoyed most of the movie, the ending really pulled me out, and I said, oh gosh, I'm so torn on this movie now. However, I loved it for the big screen. I thought it looked really great overall. The visual aesthetics and the stuff that the licenses they were allowed to use for this movie, there were plenty of them. It wasn't like they only got like 3 licenses. They got like so many licenses and they used it. I'm going to say I'm feeling it. I was really torn on which side, but I'm going to go I'm feeling it and make your decision.
All right. Well, Brandon, this movie made me feel like playing classic arcade games and then watching a cleverer movie about classic arcade games. And the thing is, the trailer made me want to do that too. And then the problem is, I get to the movie and it's got nostalgia factor and nothing else.
Yeah.
For me, I can't even go as far as to say it falls apart by the third act. It lost me in the first, Brandon. Here, my big thing with this is false advertising.
Okay.
If I had known that it was going to go as far with crude humor as it did, I could have potentially more accepted it for what it wanted to be.
Okay.
But the way and so that's less of a slight against the movie and more of a slight about the way it's sold. But the problem is, I think this movie is gonna trick a bunch of families to go see it, and I think a bunch of parents are gonna feel really awkward about taking their kids to it.
I noted that in the theater,
and I don't like that. I don't like that I was tricked. I almost took my wife and my kid because my 5-year-old because I trusted it. Adam Sandler has made some kid movies and some family movies that are sometimes push the line a little bit, but don't go quite as far over as this did. This got just too crude for my taste. Not the crudest thing he's made by any stretch of the imagination, and certainly not the crudest thing I've seen, but ultimately what this is, and I still think even for the kind of movie it is, it gets tonally kind of out of sorts.
Okay.
So
I can see that.
It already has issues, but and like giant logical fallacies where it's not playing fair with its audience enough. It doesn't set itself up as being as absurd of a piece as it has to be to get away with some of the stuff that it's trying to do.
You mean they try to take themselves too seriously in this movie?
To a degree, and not too seriously, but like you don't know what the rules are. So for instance, there is a bit where a character is able to do something that is physically impossible, just physically impossible, and the logic is, it's a video game. Okay, the problem is it's not a video game. Like the aliens send video game things to us, but
it's
what
we
have is real world, and we have to approximate it. So how come all of a sudden the physical people get to use video game logic? It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't play itself as an absurd enough piece where we have cartoon physics
Right,
already we would have to have that.
If that was a set of what the aliens sent to us, then you could have. So
that's a problem. But beyond that. It was the advertising was far too tame. The trailers made me, and I think probably a lot of other people think that they made just kind of a fun, largely wholesome thing. So. Obviously, what they wanted to do is they wanted to make a movie for us, for people our age. They wanted to make a movie for the angry video game nerd crowd. And it's interesting that, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in on this, Brandon, is because you reviewed that with me.
Yeah.
We did that last year and we liked it a lot. Of course, that movie it has a lot of swearing and is vulgar and stuff.
And
but
it's
you
marketed
know
as such.
What you're getting yourself into, and you know who it's for. And this thing, I felt like even while I was watching it, sometimes wasn't real sure what it was for. There's some really fun, cute stuff that works. That works on a wholesome kind of level, but then there's all of this, I think, really unnecessary, like, crude language, and not even there's some language, not even language so much as ideas and the stuff that we're talking about. Some of the relationship stuff was just going too far for me.
It was a little hokey. Like I personally, I didn't understand. Speaking of the relationship stuff, I didn't understand why some of it was even there at all.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't
serve a purpose. Didn't really drive anything forward.
And frankly, I think that a lot of storytelling with this is just kind of lazy. It's not like we're just not real creative with stuff. We're not real creative with the character stuff is pretty paint by number. I think like the character arcs, and I go air quotes with that, and I think that's fine in a movie that is really creative and having a lot of fun with itself and is more about the romp and the ride. Frankly, there wasn't enough action in this for me.
You didn't think so?
For what it was. And whenever they would get into the actual video game fights and stuff, that was enjoyable. Some of that was clever. And I felt like a lot of the clever stuff was in the storyboarding.
And it looked really good, too.
It looked good. And I also think that a lot of the clever stuff was because we've got a really good veteran director in Chris Columbus, and he knows how to shoot this. And he just didn't. It was really bizarre that there's just too much standing around and talking in awkward humor and what I would call like insult comedy. And that made Adam Sandler's character really unlikable for me from the very beginning, where we make characters act unlike real people would in a situation where they're constantly being berated, just so that he can keep going with jokes and make an audience that finds that kind of insult humor funny, right? So you have somebody just standing there taking
style,
it.
Though.
I get that. But there was no reason going in that I should have thought it was an Adam Sandler movie.
Right.
More and more than that, why would this material? I'm just saying, why would this material? They should have gone. They should have gone full tilt with it, or not had it, or not had it there at all.
Do you feel like they kind of went halfway with Sandler and halfway with everybody else?
Yes.
And they kind of tried to just blend it. It didn't blend.
Yeah, that's precisely what I thought.
Cool, gotcha.
In some places, it even got too hot the time machine for me.
I can totally relate to what you're saying.
That was my deal with it. So yeah, I mean, you had some fun nostalgic stuff, but boy, we are banking on that with a lot of things right now. I mean, like, I can't credit a movie too much for premise. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, it's a concept over execution thing. But what's really irritating and awkward about it is that sometimes the execution is great, especially when we're talking about some of the action scenes.
Oh yeah,
but
when we do get those action scenes, they look good, they sound good, and you're like, well, of course that's how that would be if that really came to life.
And when I say that we're not being creative enough, some of that is in characterization and interpersonal relationships. Some of that is in the rules of the world and the aliens. Why couldn't we have built a cool mythology with that? It was so generic to me by the end.
I wish we could have gotten more of a backstory than we did get in the way that we got it.
I don't think I'm giving too much away when I say this because Pac-Man's in the trailer. The whole Pac-Man's a bad guy thing is in the trailer. Why are the aliens using Pac-Man when they use the bad guys from every other video game?
I don't know, and you made this point in the theater too, because they talk about patterns in this movie, and Adam Sandler's character specifically, he's like, I know the patterns. Well, he's the ghosts. They're the ghosts.
First of all.
So, like, if you know the pattern and you're the ghost, now the pattern doesn't even matter.
Because you would be creating
that
Pac-Man
pattern.
would make a pattern because you're the one controlling him. And secondly, you're making the point I made in the theater, but you should also make your point, which way, because you mentioned, well, what in the world does driving have to do with Pac-Man? Like, anyone could have done that. I wanted to
know, the characters are now driving these cars, and I said, unless they were playing a bunch of racing games, let's face it, in 1982, what were the racing games? You're not going to have anything like. I remember
there were some. You had like pole position and stuff like that.
Right, but
there were things, but
and maybe you might a little bit later you might have had.
But Brandon, it's a moot point because they're real cars. Anyone could do that. Just get NASCAR drivers. It doesn't make any sense.
And that's what I said in the theater. I was like, why couldn't we just have had NASCAR drivers? Because it makes sense only if you're controlling the Pac-Man.
Right.
If you're controlling Pac-Man, you're gonna know which ways that Inky, Blinky, Pinky and Clyde are going to go through there, but now you are the ghosties.
This is one of those movies where it's you don't want to go too far in complaining about like logical fallacies because the point is more of course to be a fun over the top summer blockbuster. And
it is, however,
and to do absurd humor.
If you're going to do this with these games, you got to get it right.
The point I'm trying to make, though, is that that it goes far enough in trying to make you sort of care about characters, sort of. I think you know what I mean.
That it wants you to care about them for sure.
That what you end up with is a lot of confusion. Like a movie that's just straight up farcical and ridiculous. I can live with things like the guy and the girl meet, and then 6 seconds later, they both show up at the same place. And that is kind of the impetus to get us into the. By the way, that woman made no sense. Like 1 minute she's completely losing it over losing her husband, and the next minute she's got herself completely together because of the kind of job she does. Because of the kind of job she does, I don't feel like she would have been the way she was.
Right. And for better or for worse, they've gone with the stereotypical unstable trope. I feel like.
Yeah. And there, of course, a lot of stereotypes.
That's on the worst side of things. That's a bad stereotype to portray, but they went with it and they did that. So.
But yeah, why don't you, just the conceptually the thing doesn't work. Why don't you just give everyone one of these light guns? Just like they're not weapons except dealing with these aliens. You can't hurt anyone with them. So just
blowing holes in these video game characters.
So just hand one to everybody. Like the first time that Adam Sandler and his friends are fighting aliens, it kind of works because they get the patterns.
Yes.
And so like the soldiers don't know what they're doing. So then and by the way, the notion of these people are like what these guys are middle-aged, they're washed out, the only thing they were ever any good at is video games, and now finally they get to do something with that skill is kind of a fun idea, you know what I mean? And then the notion of like now that they finally get to show that they're good at something, they build up a little bit of self-confidence and now they can be social animals is a good idea, but the movie doesn't do anything with that.
Well, let me add one thing.
But anyway, we're out of time. 1 second. I'm not feeling it. I'm going to go red on this, and I hate that. I was really looking forward to this one. I was excited about it. I was also, and some of this is certainly a taste thing. Some folks like that kind of humor. Some people like that awkward stuff, the Peter Dinklage stuff.
Well, for the most part, it worked for me
fine.
Just until the end.
But it did, I disliked it right out the gate. Like the opening with the old school arcade stuff really got me. I thought all that stuff was really fun. Mm-hmm. And really fun. And as soon as we went to present day,
I was done. Thank you for saying that. I wish they'd stayed in 82 a little bit longer. Yeah,
the thing had its moments, man. But ultimately, now it was definitely not for me. Ultimately, because of the kind of humor it was, but also folks that thought it was going to be a good family movie, in my opinion, is not. Now standards are a little bit different now. I feel out of touch a little bit is part of my problem too. Is that the standards seem to have changed a little bit. I'm sure some people will watch this video and be like, "Oh, Captain Logan, you're old-fashioned. this kind of thing is fine for kids now. Not in my opinion.
Right, and that's perfectly
and,
fine for you to believe that too.
And boy, that just bugs me.
I will support you all day long. What you think is appropriate for your kid is not what someone else is going to think.
I'm disappointed that I can't take my kid to it.
And I can understand that.
But I'm sorry,
I do want to ask you this.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that they're middle-aged now and they're kind of washed up. Excuse me. With the exception of like one character, they're floundering.
Yeah.
The rest of them are floundering. I want to know that one character. What did you think about what it turns out Kevin James's character ends up being?
Well, and of course he's washed up too because he's not doing well with what's going on there.
Right.
Completely unbelievable. But if they'd made it more of a farcical kind of thing, and again in places it's just awkward tonally.
Yeah, we were like, what?
Yeah, it's just
when
really
they revealed him,
totally uneven. And I thought it was a hilarious idea. We just didn't go far enough with it.
We didn't, and you're absolutely right. I too wish they would have just taken these things to kind of their extremes, the limit of the extreme, and just gone with it there.
Do you remember why can't I remember his name? The comedian who made the movie Head of State. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I'm not saying this just because he played a president in a farce movie, but Chris Rock.
Okay, yes,
you give this material to Chris Rock and it's a better movie.
I believe you are right.
I'm going to go that far, and I'm not saying Chris Rock makes great movies necessarily, but he sometimes makes like super silly farces, and it's you at least know where you stand with it the whole time.
You do.
But anyway,
Chris Rock has always been that way. Adam Sandler's kind of a hit and miss.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's exactly how I would describe the humor in this. For every time I laughed or even wanted to maybe even clap because something was so funny, I had another moment where either a thing just wasn't funny at all and I was doing this, or I wanted to put Picard facepalm.
You were on the edge of your seat for some of it, but some of it. You were laid back for some of the rest of it.
Not enough to flip it green. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. It's always fun to disagree. And I know that they like you like more. And I don't want to call this a raunchy comedy, but you like those kind of comedies more.
I'm more on that side of it.
Boy, not me, man. This is just.
Can I say one thing about our experience in the theater too?
Yeah.
How odd was it that we got a preview, the same preview, twice?
I've never seen that.
I'd never seen that either. That was totally bizarre.
It was really, so we saw it was the first preview in the line.
We thought it had reset itself,
which made us think that we were going to have to sit there and watch all the previews again, and we were like, oh god, because there was one preview we really didn't want to have to see again. We were like, oh my god, no!
We couldn't believe that preview. You'll know when you see it.
I am 30 years old. I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Yeah. I've been going to the theater forever. I've never seen that happen.
What's up with that?
Isn't that bizarre?
A repeated preview.
I thought I'd seen everything. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And Brandon, thanks for coming back.
No problem.
And how we felt about. That was a lot of fun. And we'll see you again very shortly for another new movie review. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Gremlin Songs.
Gremlin Songs?
Gremlin Songs.
Gremlin. Brandon, that's like nobody knows what you're talking about. That was
and I'm Brandon.
Okay, that's Brandon. He's like inside joke man. All right, bye. Bye. Do 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 do